So what you think is a gluten intolerance is very well a fructan intolerance, okay? So, and I am referring to gluten intolerances, not celiac disease, not wheat allergies, and not gluten sensitivities, for those of you that are worried about that, okay? I'm talking about straight up gluten intolerance. So what happens is that, well, to start off with, there's actually no test for gluten intolerance, okay? So what happens is a person has gluten, they have a lot of digestive issues from the gluten, and they're sure they don't have celiac disease or they don't have an immune system response to it. They just eat gluten and it causes digestive issues. A lot of these people actually have a fructan issue, okay? And why that's important to figure out if you have a gluten issue or a fructan issue is because that if you know what's causing the problem, then you know how to help best help the problem, okay? So the reason people think they have gluten issues when they very well may have a fructan issue, which a fructan is a FODMAP. It's a fermentable carbohydrate, okay? The reason that you may think that you have a gluten issue, a gluten intolerance, is because you have pasta, bread, cereals, or whatever, and every time you have those, you have digestive discomforts, and so you go gluten intolerant. All of those foods are also high in fructan, okay? And a lot of people, and I should say, the other thing that's interesting is fructan intolerance problems are actually, from the research I can find, are more severe than gluten intolerance issues. Whether you know that or not, a lot of people that have really bad reactions to gluten, non-celiac, non-wheat allergy stuff, those are fructan issues. So how do you tell the difference? Well, one way to tell the difference is you buy foods that are high in fructans that have no gluten in them. So onions, garlic, I think Brussels sprouts, I want to say watermelon, maybe dates. So there's a bunch of foods that are high in fructans and that have no gluten in them. If you eat those foods, I think asparagus is one of them as I'm thinking about it, but you eat those foods and then you go about 3 or 4 hours, and if you have a lot of digestive issues, bloating, gas, discomfort, you have a fructan issue, okay? So a lot of people will come in and say, I have a gluten intolerance and a dairy intolerance. Dairy, lactose, is also a FODMAP. So like fructan, this is a problem for people. So what are FODMAPs? So FODMAPs are fermentable carbohydrates, sugars and whatnot, and when you digest them, and they go into the small intestine and large intestine, and if there is an imbalance of bacteria in the small intestine and large intestine, that imbalance will ferment those carbohydrates. That fermentation process causes a lot of gas. The gas then in turn causes bloating, abdominal pain, constipation, diarrhea. It causes, it can cause a hydrogen response, which then in turn can create, by way of archaea, can be turned into methane. And so you see a lot of people that have FODMAP issues. I think they are usually diagnosed with SIBO and IBS is typically what people would say. And we would probably suggest that those overlap more often than not. And most people that have FODMAP issues actually have a small intestinal issue, even probably more so than a large intestine issue, okay? So what are the immediate responses? Well, one of the reasons we know a lot of people that have gluten intolerances actually have a FODMAP intolerance is because if I give somebody with gluten intolerance, pure gluten intolerance, if I have them take one of these capsules for a small amount of, for like a roll or something, or if I have them take 2 to 3, or sometimes 3 to 4 if it's Thanksgiving, if I have them take plenty of these enzymes at the beginning of a meal with gluten, for those with gluten intolerance, I'm not saying shit about celiac disease right now, okay? But with gluten intolerance specifically, if a person takes 3 to 4 of these before a good sized meal with gluten and they still have a response or a reaction, you have a fructan issue. And the answer to that is this. These are FODMAP enzymes, okay? So this helps break down FODMAPs. Once again, the answer to this is if you have a small meal with FODMAPs in it, then you would take 1 capsule. If you have Thanksgiving meal, or you have a big ass meal, right? If you're eating a lot of food, you have to have full coverage. So be mindful of that. And all I'm trying to say is if for many of you, rather than taking the gluten comfort, which works really well if your issues are issues with the protein in gluten not breaking down sufficiently and causing digestive issues. If you have fructan issues, then you want this. So for those of you that have dairy and have gluten issues, this is what you want, okay? So these are what I call Band-Aids. These are Band-Aid products, meaning these are really good. You can use them whenever you want. They will help with the problem. They'll do it now. They'll do it immediately. But if you want to get beyond living on enzymes to resolve those issues, then in all honesty, you need to get into a fairly aggressive gut health protocol. So what does that mean? Well, for many people that have FODMAP issues, even if people have never told you have any SIBO and IBS, they're like, you just don't have it. You did the breath test or you did the blood test or whatever, and they're like, nope, you don't have SIBO. I'm still going to strongly suggest you do the same protocol. You're still going to want to go up, and you start at the top, and you're going to want to work all the way down. A lot of people with SIBO and IBS are unaware that those issues are motility issues. They are unaware that those issues are very frequently associated with H. pylori overgrowth in the stomach and low stomach acid. So there's a reason we start up top and we work our way down. The price is the same as of the other big protocols. It's the same damn price. It's just more thorough. It's going to start at the top and work the way down. A lot of people will say, but I don't have reflux issues. I don't really care. I'm still going to say your stomach is connected to your small intestine, is connected to your colon. If you follow those steps in the appropriate manner, you deal with the problem. Now, will this process help with gluten issues? Hell yeah. One of the food intolerance problems that people have is a enzyme deficiency. That's also what some people would call a food intolerance. An enzyme deficiency, in most instances that I can find, a lot of people say they don't know what the hell's going on and why people don't have those enzymes. But I think if you study the data, you can find a pretty good chain that goes from dysbiosis to leaky gut. It goes to inflammation goes and leaky gut. Then you get a translocation of bacteria and inflammation that goes to the pancreas. Then the pancreas starts having issues and stops producing enzymes, and you have an enzyme deficiency. So there you go. So would the same protocol and the same approach help with an enzyme deficiency? Of course. Think about it. If you clean the gut up, then you're not pushing bad bacteria out into the whole system, so that's gone. You have a gut barrier. Well, now nothing like now nutrients and water and stuff are permeating and going through the system and being absorbed by the body, but the other shit's staying through the digestive system. Okay, so so you're not releasing toxins, you're getting rid of toxins, you're strengthening the gut barrier, you're helping reduce inflammatory processes, and over time that would then, based on the data, suggest that it would help the pancreas. And if the pancreas's inflammatory responses are going down, then you would, in turn, you could imagine there may be the possibility that the pancreas would act normal again, and you wouldn't have all the enzyme deficiency problems. So does the same protocol work for both? Yeah, it's the same. It's just the problems are different, the solution's the same, okay? So that's how this works. Once again, for many of you that have gluten intolerances, you very well may have a fructan intolerance, okay? The immediate answer to that is the bloat and gas relief. You've got to take them at the beginning of the meals. They have to be taken with meals. Enzymes don't do shit if you take them in the morning and then you eat all day. They're not hanging out in the gut all day like probiotics, okay? And if you do have gluten issues, which does happen, you have an inability to break down the proteins in gluten. Once again, you want to take these at the beginning of meals, and you want to take plenty of them, just like with the bloat and gas relief enzymes. I hope this helps. Bye.